All right, so today we're going to take a deep dive into the story of Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google and Alphabet. And honestly, going from a two-room apartment in Chennai to basically running the internet is
Yeah.
it's pretty wild.
Yeah, it's a remarkable journey for sure. And, when you look at his early life, it really makes you think about how much it influenced his approach to leadership. Imagine growing up sharing a two-room apartment with your family. No car, having to rely on public transportation all the time. And get this, they didn't even have a phone in the house until he was 12 years old.
Whoa, seriously, no phone. I
Yeah.
mean, I feel lost if I don't have mine for like 5 minutes. Makes you wonder how all that, especially in a place like Chennai, how that affected his view of the world.
Right, like his work ethic and everything. Absolutely. It probably made him super resourceful. When you have limited resources, you have to be really efficient. You have to make the most of what you've got. I think those experiences probably helped him develop his problem-solving skills and maybe even his collaborative spirit. If you're living in close quarters, you got to learn to work together.
Yeah, that makes sense. So we have this image of young Sundar navigating a pretty tough environment.
Yeah.
But then he gets fascinated by technology. I read that he was completely captivated by that first rotary phone his family got, and he could remember numbers like crazy. Seems like a pretty clear sign of where he was headed, huh?
It's fascinating, right? That early interest in the phone and numbers, it shows this innate curiosity about how things work. And that drive stayed with him throughout his whole career. That need to figure out tough problems and find clever solutions.
Yeah, you can see it. And that same drive took him through some really competitive schools. Jawahar, Vidyalaya, Vanani, and then, of course, the Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur.
Oh yeah, the IITs. Those are known for being incredibly demanding. It's not enough to just be smart. You have to be able to handle the pressure, to constantly push yourself. It's a real pressure cooker.
No kidding. Well, he obviously thrived there. But then comes this big turning point. Stanford. A dream come true, but a huge financial burden for his family. I read that his father had to withdraw more than his entire annual salary just to buy Sundar's plane ticket to the U.S.
Wow, that's a powerful story, to have that much faith in your child's potential. And for Sundar, it must have been a lot to process. The excitement of this huge opportunity, but also the pressure to succeed, to live up to all those sacrifices.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't just the academic challenge. Remember, he was also moving from India to the United States, a whole new world, a whole new culture.
Yeah, that must have been a huge adjustment. Yeah, I get a little homesick just traveling across a few states. I can't imagine moving across the world.
Definitely a big life change.
Okay, so after Stanford, he starts his career, applied materials, then McKinsey.
Oh, yeah. The classic route for a future tech giant.
Right. But it's interesting how those early jobs kind of set the stage for his success at Google.
Totally. Like at Applied Materials. He was surrounded by semiconductors, getting a deep understanding of how tech works at the most basic level. And then McKinsey, talk about a trial by fire.
Right.
That's where he really sharpened those analytical and strategy skills.
Right.
Figuring out complex problems, coming up with solutions.
You can totally see how it all led him to Google. But I have to admit, when I first read that he started out working on the Google toolbar, I was like, really? It seemed kind of ordinary.
I get it. It's easy to miss how important those early projects were. But that's where his vision for products really started to show. Remember back then, Internet Explorer was the dominant browser. Firefox was gaining some traction. And the toolbar was this brilliant way for Google to get a foothold, to become the default search engine no matter what browser people were using.
So it was all about strategy, getting Google in front of as many people as possible.
Exactly. Understanding how people use the internet, anticipating what was coming next, and finding those little advantages that make a big difference. And Pichai was clearly great at that. But the toolbar was just the start. It laid the foundation for something much bigger that would completely change the game. Google Chrome.
Yeah, now things start to get really interesting, launching a whole new web browser in 2008, taking on giants like Microsoft and Mozilla. That was a bold move. What made Chrome so successful?
Well, a few things. Speed was definitely a key factor. Chrome was built from scratch to be fast, to load web pages quickly and handle all those complex web applications. It was also really secure. Features like sandboxing that isolates web pages from each other and prevents harmful code from spreading. But beyond the technical stuff, it was about making things simple and user-friendly. Chrome's interface is clean, easy to understand. It quickly got a reputation for being reliable and stable.
It's amazing how quickly it took over. For a lot of people, Chrome is the internet.
It really shows his vision and his leadership. He saw that people wanted a faster, more secure, and easier-to-use browser. And he put together a team that could make it happen. But Chrome was just the beginning. Over the next few years, Pichai's responsibilities grew like crazy. He was in charge of developing Gmail, Google Maps, Google Drive, these products that we use every day now. They were revolutionary at the time. And then there's Android.
Oh, yeah. From web browsers to mobile operating systems. Android's another one of those products with massive global reach.
Think about it. Under his leadership, Google went from a search engine to this tech giant. They're involved in almost every part of our digital lives. And he did it all while encouraging innovation and teamwork, empowering his teams to take risks and push the limits.
He's like the anti-Steve Jobs. It's all about collaboration instead of the lone genius thing. But of course, with great power comes great responsibility.
Right, absolutely. And Google has definitely faced some serious challenges under Pichai. We'll get into those next. But it's important to acknowledge all that they've accomplished first.
It's true. It's easy to focus on the negative and forget about all the good that's come from Google under Pichai. But yeah, no company that big can avoid controversy forever. Google's definitely been under the microscope lately. Antitrust lawsuits, data privacy issues, ethical questions about AI. It's a lot.
Yeah, that's the trade-off when you're pushing the boundaries of technology, I guess. You're creating amazing new things.
Yeah.
But it brings up all these questions about power and responsibility
Yeah.
and the impact of tech on society. For Pichai, figuring all that out has been a huge part of his job as a leader, like with the antitrust stuff. Governments all over the world are looking at Google's dominance in search advertising, even mobile operating systems. It's tough to stay competitive and address those concerns about fairness at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. And then you have the whole data privacy debate. Feels like every week there's a news story about how much data Google collects, how they use it if it's really secure. It can't be easy trying to reassure people,
Right.
while also developing all these data-driven products.
It's a tricky situation. On one hand, Google's products rely on data to work. To personalize things, give relevant search results, power all those AI algorithms. But people are more aware of data privacy now. They want more transparency and control over their information. So Pichai has had to find ways to show that Google is responsible with data without sacrificing all the features and innovation that people expect.
He's got a lot on his plate for sure. And then you add the ethical concerns about AI on top of all that. I mean, this stuff could really change the future, right?
Right.
How do you create powerful AI and make sure it's used for good?
That's the big question, and it's one that Pichai and Google are dealing with very publicly. Think about the debates around facial recognition, algorithmic bias, the possibility of AI being used for harmful purposes. These aren't just theoretical problems, they're real issues that need to be addressed.
It's wild to think about. This guy who started out in a two-room apartment in Chennai is now at the center of some of the biggest tech and societal debates in the world. It shows you that what happens in Silicon Valley doesn't just affect the tech industry. It has an impact on everyone.
It's true. It's a story that's still being written. And I think it raises important questions for all of us. What do we want the role of technology to be in our lives? How do we balance progress with responsibility? How do we make sure the future of tech benefits everyone? Those are things we should all be thinking about, even after this deep dive is over.
Couldn't agree more. Definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of Sundar Pichai. We'll see you this time.